Before we go on this little journey, I want to ask two questions. Number one, how does God orchestrate these turning points? How does He do it? And number two, what does someone have to believe in order to be saved? A turning point is a fork in the road. It's a crossroads. If you're old enough, you've had them, you know what they are. You don't need much more of an explanation than that. A turning point is something that God orchestrates in order to see to the salvation of a human soul. God causes turning points. And typically, He uses crisis to do it. Thomas had a turning point. You know doubting Thomas, right? One day he said, and I quote, "I will never believe." You remember that? The next day, he made history by being the first person ever to call Jesus God. Thomas, what happened? God orchestrated a turning point that resulted in Thomas's salvation. Saul had a turning point. Just preach through it. One day he's persecuting, next day he's preaching. How'd that happen? God orchestrated a tailor-made turning point that resulted in Saul's salvation. God orchestrates desperation by removing false hope. Here's what I mean by that. In God's great love for you, He removes false symbols of hope, like politicians and pastors and people of influence who you might have put too much hope in. And He takes those people and He removes them from office, or He removes them from your life, so that you'll have no other choice but to see the absolute truth about where hope actually comes from, which is Jesus. So God creates these moments of desperation where you feel like hope is fleeting. And He does that on purpose because He wants you to see where hope is actually found. Second, God orchestrates turmoil by removing false comforts. In His great love for you, here's what your God will do throughout the remainder of your life. God will remove false sources of comfort from your life so that you'll see that these false comforts are creating in you a dependence on them. Here's what God has done in my life. When I develop a routine of building a life around comforts that really all they are is Band-Aids for pain in my life, God, little by little, starts to take them away from me, so that I realize that none of these things can bring me the comfort that my soul is really longing for. Let's be honest. Going to a bottle can make the pain go away for a little while. Going to a prostitute can make the pain go away for a little while. Going on endless vacations and cruises, and it can make the pain go away for a little while. Having fancy, luxurious things, it can dull those things that hurt. They can. But at the end of the day, the pain comes back. And most of the time, it just comes back worse. Eventually, every one of us has to come to a conclusion that there's something greater that can bring us the peace that we're all longing for. God orchestrates those moments in your life where He strips you of comfort after comfort after comfort on purpose, so that you'll come to Him and say, "Lord, without the Prince of Peace, nothing can bring me comfort." Do we not have a loving God? Because He does for His kids what His kids are very rarely willing to do for themselves. Next, He orchestrates need by removing false security blankets. How great is our God that sometimes He strips jobs from us, nest eggs, 401ks, retirement plans. How great is His love for us that He does these things to prove to us just what you sang with Peyton. All I've ever had is Christ. And eventually I'm going to lose everything. But if you have Him, what do you need? Nothing. And so God will spend the remainder of your days showing you all these things that you put your security in. They're just security blankets, just like Linus. You carry them around. One day, God makes sure that every one of His Linuses lose those blankets so that you will know what it is that you truly have in your life. And I'm here to tell you, as Peyton already did, it's Christ. He orchestrates these moments to create a greater Christ consciousness in every one of His kids. Well, based on the testimony of the whole New Testament, I want to show you 5 things that it means to turn to the Lord. First, it means you turn to Him in daily submission. First and foremost, when these residents of Lydda and Sharon turned to the Lord, it means they stopped calling their previous Lord, Lord, and they have a new Lord. Who was their previous Lord? Themselves. The same as you. When you're born, you have a Lord, and it's you. And every time you cry for something and demand something, you go out of your way to make sure that you have it. Well, the residents of Lydda and Sharon, when they called a new Lord, Master, they submitted to Him daily. So what does it mean to turn to the Lord? It means daily submission to Him. It's a new Master. Second, it means turn to Him in daily worship. To turn to the Lord means to make Him the central focus of your life. When you were born, who was the central focus of your life? You were. You were born crying because you had needs, and Mom came and met those needs. Every single human being is born self-centered. And when you're born again, that self-centered focus shifts. It shifts off of you and onto a new Lord. So the second thing that it means for these residents of Lydda and Sharon to call Him Lord, it means to worship Him, to make Him the most worthwhile thing in your life. That's what worship is. Second or third, to turn to Him means to turn to Him daily in prayer. Do you realize that prayer is the thing that you can do that makes Jesus look so great to the world? When you pray, what you're doing is opening your hands and you say, I have needs and I believe you can fulfill them. How great does it make the Lord look when a servant comes to Him and says, please supply my needs. I'm needy and you have an abundance. Please. Like a beggar. To turn to the Lord is to say, you have it and I need it. The reason Peter prayed before he did both of these miracles is because he recognized, without Jesus, I have nothing to offer these people. So turn to Him daily in prayer, just like Peter did. Next, turn to Him in daily friendship. When you turn to the Lord, you're not just turning to a master, you're turning to a new friend, just like Abraham did. Abraham was called the friend of God. And here's what Jesus says about you. Jesus says, look on the screen, no longer do I call you servants, but friends. Because mere servants don't know their master's business. So yes, you have a new master, but this master calls you friend. So to call Him Lord is to come to Him as your greatest confidant. There should be no one who knows the depth of your secrets like Jesus does. Come to Him daily and pour out your heart. Lastly, to turn to Him means to turn to Him daily in trust. These new residents of Lydda and Sharon who turned to Him after this miracle that they saw, they didn't just turn to Him and say, okay, fine, we'll believe in you, and then go about their business. They put that faith in action with tangible acts of trust. So to turn to the Lord means you got to step out of the boat and onto the water. You got to trust Him every day. It's a whole new life.